Hey there, my name is Jer, and welcome back to my channel. I want to finish up a mini-series that I've been doing on boat pins and rescues on the Upper Nantahala. Last week I posted a video. If you haven't seen it yet, it's up here. But basically it was a boat rescue that went poorly. I posted it to some of the local Facebook groups and the local paddling clubs. I wanted to get a discussion going on what could be done better in the future to avoid similar situations to this. One of the local groups specifically had a huge comment thread about it with tons of good discussion, and I wanted to share that with the whole YouTube world as well. So to keep things kind of short and brief, I'll only be using the comments that are relevant to the discussion. If I don't feature your comment, it's not that I don't appreciate you, it's just that somebody else probably already said what you said, or it just wasn't something that added to the discussion. Definitely still appreciate the feedback though. So the first comment we have is from Adam Dean. He says, "What a terrible video. The boat was hooked to a rope while being led downstream. The boat was secure. You unclip the boat from its only secure point and then let the boat get smashed on every rock for the next mile or so. This is poor execution of a boat rescue. Sorry to be rude, but what the heck were you all thinking?" Sean Kelly responds to this and says, "Really hate to see what would have happened with a real pin. Pure incompetence is what I see in this video, but you live and you learn from experience, I guess." Adam Dean responds, "It's almost bragging about being reckless. IDK why anybody would share something like this. Feel bad for the boat owner." And Sean Kelly responds again, "Yeah man, it's people like this who end up dying on the river. Don't even know what a boat pin is or how to rescue a boat. Where was the boater? Every time I've ever swam and my boat has gone away from me, I'm running down the shore or swimming it to the rest of the way to shore. Granted, my first year I did go out in water much higher than this and completely sink a few boats. Got lucky enough to have a friend find them a few days later." So with this first set of comments, I want to make something extremely clear here, and that is that my videos are not for bragging rights. I've never and will never put out videos on this channel for the purpose of bragging. My channel has always been about that awkward, clumsy learning process that us as whitewater kayakers go through when we first start. And I think it's important for other people to see that yes, there are people out there flipping over in class 2 waves, there are people out there swimming in eddies, because that's where we all start. Part of the reason I put this out is for others to learn from this and so that I myself can learn from this. And so I think in a way you have completely missed the point of why I put out this video. Morgan Randall, he says, "Hey Jerry, kudos for bringing up the safety aspect of kayaking for discussion. I have a basic protocol when rescuing a boat. Number 1, look after the swimmer. Should be obvious, but has to be stated. If the swimmer is safe, then look for the paddle, then look after the boat. Number 2, if boat is washing down a relatively tame rapid with me, I will bulldozer it, but I won't take my hands off my paddle and grab it until we can get to a spot of water where it is calm enough for me to flip it up and over to drain enough water to make it float better. Taking your hands away from the paddle compromises your ability to maneuver and increases risk to yourself. Number 3, the goal is to get the boat to the same side of the river as paddler, but if not easy, just take whichever shore or island you can manage to get it to and let it live there until swimmer and boat can be reunited with a good safe plan involving people on shore or whatever is necessary." So Morgan, great feedback. We were looking for the swimmer and we were told that he was good, he was on shore, and that he had actually swam about a quarter mile above where the boat was. So even though we didn't have eyes on him, we were sure that he was okay. Totally agree with you there. As for bulldozing, with a boat this heavy, it was difficult to bulldoze it. And that might be a reflection more of my own skill than anything else. But the Upper Nantahala with heavy Malkno is just not an easy place to bulldoze boats. The plan was to eventually get it to an eddy where I could flip it over and drain it, but just without being able to get it to an eddy in the first place, it didn't happen. John Naylor says, "That was a mess. I think you could have gotten yourself in trouble hanging onto the boat and turned one rescue into 2. I'm not sure why you guys didn't leave the boat on the bank. Why put it back in the river? Well, you all will learn from this either way. Good of you to help get a stranger's boat. Good river karma coming your way. Actually though, you may have used up that good river karma on this rescue." So John, the reason we put the boat back in the river is because we were looking to get it to the other side to where the swimmer was. And the easiest place we thought to do that was down that ledge to where I was, and then we could ferry it across. In hindsight, it probably would have been a better option to just leave the boat on shore and let the water come down and the swimmer and his group could deal with it afterwards. So lesson learned there. Appreciate your feedback. Next we have Jeffrey Calvert. He says, "I read most of the comments. Number 1, good for you for helping when a lot of people wouldn't, especially on the Upper Nantahala. Number 2, you had the boat clipped. In my opinion, at the point it started getting backsurfed into the hole, it would have been smart to just secure the rope that was already attached, get hold of the boat and regroup. If you're going to chase a boat and hold onto it, do not find yourself hanging on in the upstream side of it. because I saw that a few times and had that boat pinned between two rocks you are now directly upstream of a homemade strainer. This is dangerous for you and others on the river. Bottom line, you got it and that someone was okay. Rescues aren't always pretty, but we all are hoping for the same outcome you had. Jeffrey, great post, great points. The Upper Nanny, like others have said, is a difficult place to rescue. As for me unclipping the boat, that 100% my fault. I don't know why exactly I made that decision. I think I thought I had it secure, but me unclipping the boat definitely made things worse, and that was something that was echoed in many comments as well. And then chasing and holding onto the boat. So at the time, I was worried that I would drift into a rock and the 8,000 pound Machno would smash into me, and I didn't want to be caught in between that and a rock. As bad as the thought of creating a homemade strainer is, I think the thought of having an 8,000 pound boat smash into me is almost worse. And I, again, don't know what the right answer is here. Next is Stephen Carter. He says, people point out good things. I would just add, be more aggressive about it. Bulldoze the boat instead of just floating with it, hoping for a pin or an eddy. And learn how to drain a boat in water. That's super helpful. Also, you said you weren't that great at boat rescue, so best thing could have been to drain it and put it on the bank. The swimmer in their group could have figured out getting it back across. Work within the constrictions of your skills. It usually plays out better. Stephen, great feedback. Really appreciate it. You're right. I do need to be more aggressive bulldozing, and that's something, again, that I do need to practice. And I think your comment on working within the constrictions of your skills is spot on. I think too often we all try to be I want to say the hero, because that's a little too strong of a word, but we try to be the good guy and we try to help. And sometimes you try to help and it's just outside of your skill, or there's other circumstances in play. Next we have Tony Isle, and this is a long one, so I will summarize this up really quick. The key point he is getting at is boat position and where I am during this rescue. If I position myself on the closer to the middle of the river than to the bank, then whenever the boat comes down, I can actually bulldoze it over to the bank. And a lot of the issues were there with boat position, where I just didn't put myself in the right spot to be able to get that boat to where I needed it to be. Mark Thompson also commented, I'm going to skip the first half of it just because it is stuff that's already been mentioned. However, at the end to this, he says, key elements to this is that with no person in danger and a boat stable, you had all the time you needed to really look at it and think it through. In any situation, if everyone is safe and everything is secure, take your time. There is zero need to rush everything. Be slow, be cautious, be deliberate, be safe. Mark, you're absolutely right there. We were rushing it. And we were rushing it because we felt like our group was waiting on us, and because this was actually probably the 8th or 9th boat we had extracted that day. We were getting worn down and complacent and impatient. And that's obviously the wrong answer there. Next we have Harrison Metzger. He says, thanks for taking the time to create this video and share your experience. I think your first comment on how it might have gone better was spot on. If you had been out of your boat in the small bank eddy below the initial recovery spot, you could have stopped the boat right there and avoided chasing it half a mile downstream. Many paddlers don't want to take the time it takes to get out of their boat, but sometimes it is the best option. Hope the boat owner thanked you for your efforts. And then Vicky Austin followed that with, totally agree with Harrison. Maybe it's the open boater in us, but I kept wanting you to hop out of your boat into that first eddy, secure your boat and paddle so they don't get away, and grab the loose kayak. You two are right. It definitely would have been better for me to be on the shore and helping from a stable position. Again, due to rushing and this being boat 8 or 9 or whatever it was, again, got lazy, complacent, and didn't really fully take the time to do so. So that's on me. That's my fault. Vicky Austin later did also post, I don't know the exact spot where you set up ropes, but do consider that sometimes it's not wise to put ropes across the river even if you have someone upstream alerting boats of the hazard. Upper Nanty is continuous shallow boogie, and I wonder if upstream boaters had enough opportunities, easy eddies, alternative routes to avoid the hazard. A lot of folks consider the Upper Nanty a step-up run, may not have had the mental bandwidth to even notice someone yelling at them and respond accordingly. Putting a rope across river is very risky. If you were in a situation where you had to get a boat across, consider dumping out all of the water and tow ferry across a section where it's safe to do so. The tow paddler has the skills to execute it and can release it from the extra boat quickly if necessary. She then also says, missed throws like that like to get snagged on the river bottom, creating another hazard. Vicky, you're right here. Even though we did have an upstream safety, the river is very shallow, continuous, and narrow. And I didn't even think about that. Maybe some people just wouldn't have had the skill or the mental capacity to realize that they were being told to stop. You also made a really good point about missed throws potentially snagging on the river bottom. And that's something that I hadn't even thought about at the time. So thanks for bringing that up, and I really appreciate that. Next, we have Eric Condry. He says, well, I haven't read all the comments because normal people will say stuff about things in an indifferent kind of way or just be downright critical, and a video only shows a narrow perspective of what's going on. So that said, I'm only going to ask if the boat had float bags, because she's floating pretty low in the water. I didn't see the boat's owner in the video, but I do know the terrain up there, so I also know you're not going to just be running down the riverbank cavalierly. I've been paddling this stretch of the Nanty since the wreck releases up there and have seen it all. At the end of the day, nobody got hurt, and that's a good thing. It's pretty nice of you to fight with the boat that far down the river. Coming from someone who's been involved in several rescue situations up there, it can get a bit stressful just because of the nature of the river. Fast, shallow, continuous. And trust me, at 1600 CFS, you ain't bulldozing any boats. But that's another story. Anyways, I hope the swimmer was appreciative of your efforts, and the animations were cool. So Eric, I appreciate your feedback, and you're right, the narrow lens of the GoPro does not really capture the entire day, and there's no real way to understand the entire day without being there. I don't know if there was flotation in that boat. I saw something in the back, but it very easily might have just been a dry bag, and I'm not sure. But the boat definitely was floating low, as everybody saw. All right, and so that's all the comments. Like I said, there's a lot more, but a lot of them were repeats. If there's anything you want to add, put it in the comments below. I really do appreciate it, and I think it's important for all of us to get a discussion going on safety and rescues in general. So yeah, thank you all for watching this with me. Thank you all for experiencing this with me. I did start a Patreon, link is in the description, and I'll see you all next time.